Welcome everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to this week's episode of the weekly HO Scale newsletter recaps for the week of April 28th, 2025. If you're new to the series, this is where we take a look at a variety of newsletters in the HO Scale community from various manufacturers, talk about new product announcements like you can see here from ClassOne Modelworks we'll get to in just a second. Before we do so, as always, consider subscribing if you're new or find yourself coming back anyways. Really appreciate it. Helps me to make a couple dollars, so thank you very much. Like the video if you enjoyed as well or just want to help out the algorithm. Share this with a friend if you think they might find this useful. And go ahead and drop me a comment if you found anything interesting or just want to chat. Love going through those with you guys. Let's go ahead and get started with ClassOne Modelworks' new announcement, the Sante Fe Peaked Roof Caboose. There's 3 different versions offered. First up, highlighted the CE3 rebuilds, which look amazing. I'm very, very excited for these models. I'll probably be getting at least one of these rebuild cabooses just because I really love that paint scheme. However, there are 2 other variations. There's a little bit of the features. We'll take a deep dive in just a second into those. Here is the 2200 series with the radio-equipped version shown here. Notice we've got lanterns on the side, which are lit, which are pretty sweet, as well as the 500 series. Very similar. This has the wigwag version shown here. Let's go ahead and take a closer look and take a look at some of the details on these models because I think they're really cool and they deserve taking a look at. I'll go ahead and start off quickly by showing you ClassOne Modelworks' website here with all of the cabooses laid out. You'll see there's 2 different versions of each of the brown colored cabooses, for lack of a better term. The 2200s come either radio equipped or with the wigwag, same with the 500s. And then each CE3 has its own specific page dedicated to it as they're all pretty custom. So taking a look first at like the 2200s radio version, you'll see the radio antenna on top with the wigwag. That's kind of what that looks like on the back side. As well as here, same kind of thing, just a different series there with the wigwag. If I move down a little bit, you can see if we take a look at some of these different ones, you got different variations across the board. But to give you a better look at the features on these models, we'll go ahead and take a look at one of the late product pages, just because that's the model I'm the most interested in. But a lot of them are pretty similar across the board. Right at the bottom, I do want to call out there are a couple unnumbered versions offered as well. And you can see a whole bunch of those CE3 rebuilds, highlighting some of the different features between them, lots of color variations and some label variations as well. So I've gone ahead and pulled up one of the product pages for one of the CE3 rebuilds. This is the one with the red roof that they're offering, and for no particular reason, this is probably the one I'll be picking up, but I thought it'd be pretty good and representative of the rest of them as well. So here's some different render shots here on the side. These do have step lights, which we'll take a look at in a second, as well as marker lights on each end, but no interior lights. You'll see this is the one with the radio antenna equipped on the roof there, so no wigwags on this one. And big thing here, the price on these models, $150. So that does include a little bit of a tariff charge based on the current situation. So I'm not sure if the price will come down when they actually deliver. ClassOne Modelworks didn't specify that, but they did say it does include a little bit of a tariff surcharge at the moment. These are estimated to deliver in the summer, so we'll see how the situation is at that time. Moving down, here's some of the features we'll take a look at. They're very similar and pretty much the same text here on screen between all of the different versions, so you're not really missing out too much. Lots of words here, so please feel free to pause and take a look at them as well, or check out their website, of course, for all the details. Here are some of the annotated model shots. They're pre-production samples. They just look amazing. Couple quick things to point out. There isn't a full interior on these cars. ClassOne Modelworks did say you got all those half-open windows. It's hard to see in anyways. So it's not a fully complete interior, and it's also not lighted for a similar reason. Would like to have seen that lighted interior, but we got a couple other lights to exchange out instead. Lots of extra separately applied grab iron detail. Here's a look at the underside. Looks really nice, like that generator detail on the left truck you can see there. A couple things to point out with the lighting that is present on the cars. It's got red safety lights on each end on this version, as well as the step lights, which are attached to the roof, so shining down onto the steps, not on the steps like we'd see on the current modern locomotives, but still a really cool detail. All controlled through the magnetic wand included with the car, similar to how Tangent and Rapido do theirs. So it looks really cool. Nice couplers, Not sure if they're Katie's exactly on these cars, but look like nice metal couplers either way, so shouldn't have to worry too much about replacing those, but just think the details look great on these cars. Moving on down to more of the model details. These have the full details, not specific to this model in particular. So there's differences in roof walks and cupola railing types on there that you can see, so not pointed out exactly. And those wig-wag signals are also included on the cars that have them. Here's a bunch of history on these cars themselves. There's a little bit of that. Lots of text on screen. Again, feel free to pause and take a look if you're interested. Some really nice reading. I'm not super familiar with these cars myself, but I think they look really nice, and it's a car that I didn't know I needed, and now I definitely have to have it. So just wanted to shout those out. Definitely another great model to add to your collection, especially if you're a Santa Fe modeler. We'll move on now to a Broadway Limited update regarding the Class D Shays. All right, moving on over to Broadway Limited for this week. Pulling this from their website because it had a few additional pictures regarding the Class D Shays. They do have a video if you're interested. You can search them up on YouTube and check out this model in action, their pre-production sample. They did do some redesign of the tooling to make sure it can navigate 18-inch radius curves for your tight logging railroads. Of course, I'll show you all these pictures. It looks phenomenal. I know everybody's been waiting for this for quite a little while. These will deliver in this fall. Not exactly sure exactly when yet, but the order deadline is June 5th, which we'll see just below here. And it is important to note, just like they did with their most recent run of the big boys, they are not producing any extra models than what is pre-ordered. So if you do want one of these models, please go ahead and get your pre-order in and make sure you reserve yours. But I think they look great. Definitely worth the option, especially for any of the logging railroads. Really excited to see these deliver. Not sure quite yet if I'll be buying one, as I don't quite have a logging railroad set up or anything like that. But I just think it's a really cool model, so just wanted to give that update for you. We'll move on now to Walthers next. Moving on to Walthers' e-update for the week. Same tariff notice and wording here as the past couple of weeks. Basically, backorder pricing and pre-order pricing can no longer be honored because of the tariffs. Go ahead and check that out if you missed that the past couple of weeks. An error in their May-June flyer. The Ford model they had is not in stock incorrectly, so if you're confused about that, please reach out to Walthers directly. And model, they're rerunning their mainline 50-foot waffle side box cars. Should be arriving in fall 2025 of this year. Nice details on them. Really like this past run scheme that they show with the Southern O colored in green. I think that's just pretty sweet, but another good model here for you. Next up, the GP9 high hoods in the mainline series. Walthers did announce a whole bunch in their proto line coming in 2026, especially those Western Maryland chop noses. Of course, also offered with ESU lock sound or DCC ready. Take your pick there. Another good model here to fill out your roster. A car here in their proto line, the molten sulfur tank cars. Pretty sweet markings on them to denote that service. Pretty much everything you can ask for on those cars. Looks pretty good to me. And next up, we got a model here featured the Faller motorized bascule bridge. I believe that's how you say that, Faller Fire. Please correct me if you know. But I think this is a really cool model. They got a bunch of the bascule bridges around Chicago. Never seen any of them operate, but I think they're still pretty sweet. So if you're interested in those, nice river scene you got in your layout, this would fit perfectly. But that is all we have from Walthers for this week. We'll move on now to Rapido. Moving on to Rapido's newsletter, always the longest, but one of my favorites. A little bit of a table of contents here at the top. We'll start off with a quick note for us Americans here. They will eventually have a US-focused website that'll show products in stock in their new Buffalo warehouse over in New York. So that's not currently operational or live yet as of this recording, so look for that early May. I'm sure we'll see some communication when that is released. A little bit of a tariff update there. The models that just shipped out of their Buffalo warehouse to the US were subject to a tariff charge, but not the extreme tariffs that we are currently seeing as of this recording, of course. So they did absorb 52% of that tariff, so it was a little bit discounted, but the prices were still increased on those models that just arrived. So definitely check with your dealer to see when that price is when it arrives and go from there. But a lot of the manufacturers are coming together in the industry, seen a bunch of statements and interviews from ScaleTrains and Walthers as well, talking about the tariff situation, so they're just all trying to get through it together. Now on to some new announcements. They did add a new scheme to their Via Rail Bud RDCs. One of them is an RDC1 and two RDC2s here with the 2010 era rebuild scheme. Here's some of the model shots here, a couple revisions still to come, and some prototype shots there of the car itself. It's a little bit of information on the cars themselves. These are currently in active service, so it's pretty cool that they're adding them as well if you wanted to model some cars still in active service. They did also have some design renders of CN1501, the test track evaluation car. A couple differences on this car, of course, different painted ends, blanked out windows, and a whole bunch of lights on them. But these are the early renders of it. Looks really nice. I'm considering getting one, haven't put in an order for one yet, but it could be a cool one to add, just not quite sure yet. Here's some of the underside details on these cars. Looks really nice. Standard Rapido undersides really at this point, a mix of plastic and metal pieces that are added on there. Here's some of the features on the cars, as well as some other lights there. And here are those paint schemes. So there's those RDC1 and RDC2s, as well as all of the previously announced RDC paint schemes. And here's the RDC9s also in this release. And of course that test track car here for CN, as well as Santa Fe. And finally SP10, which was rebuilt after a collision, so one side is fully blanked out and the other side is just the normal end of that. So that's also offered as well. But go ahead and get your pre-orders in for these if you find any of those pretty interesting. Some cool paint schemes to choose from in this run. Moving on now to their next announcement. They're doing wrapped lumber loads for their new hoscale centerbeam cars. A little bit of history there in the cars. Something I do want to point out, they say that all their current loads that are out there commercially, not custom loads, are too short for their car that they recently announced, both in HO and N scale, as well as the Atlas center beams. So this load should fit both of them very nicely. Here's some of the features there. Big thing, accurately sized for those 73-foot center beams. Here's a couple of those different wrapping paint schemes. Of course, the cars themselves were recently announced in both HO and N scale, so these would go perfect alongside of those. We do also have the exact same announcement in N scale as well, so I'll move through this quickly as well. Same offerings in terms of the companies marked on the lumber loads, just a little smaller. Moving on here, a couple events and shows that they're talking about. They were live last week, about a 2-hour video that's currently on YouTube. I'm making my way through it. Nothing exactly I wanted to point out quite yet from that video, still getting through it. So maybe next week if there's anything in particular to call out. But they're always live, good crew there that they had that is uploaded to YouTube now. They will be at the PRR and HS convention from May 14th to 18th. So lots of time there to talk with them, talk about Pennsylvania in specific, or anything, other questions that might come up when they're there. So if you're over there, they do say that they might have a new 3D sample to tease with a new project, so that'd be pretty sweet. So excited to see what comes out of that show. Moving on to the arrival updates. Lots of items recently shipped. I did just pick up my 3 F40PHM-2s this past weekend from Lombard Hobbies, as well as a whole bunch of Athearn Genesis cars because they were having quite a sale. So lots of videos coming soon once I get around to it. Hopefully in the next couple days I'll have all those out. Really excited for everything there. The NPCUs also look great. I did get a chance to take a look at the rolling stock there, the hopper and gondola for the Pennsylvania. Look really nice as well. Lombard didn't have the flat cars and MOW cars currently out yet, so those should be coming soon if you're waiting on Lombard on those, but still expecting those to look really nice as well. Lots of other models shipping in early May, those PFE reefers as well as the Berlin Mills boxcar. And finally, those H1644s are on the way, as well as a specific scheme there, the Pan Am scheme for the Berlin Mills boxcar currently on the water. We got a couple new photos here. First up, there is one of those Berlin Mills boxcars. Really nice detail on them, of course. Talked about them before. Really nice underside, of course, with Rapido. Here is the first sample that we've seen of the GP40s, which should be really awesome. I've got two of those on pre-order, one the CN and one IC version. So really excited to see those finally deliver, as well as see more of those production samples. Here's those H1644s from the factory. They have left since this picture, as they say, so currently on the water like we just talked about. Here's those Hawker Siddeley vans that we saw last week, just a couple different road numbers in this one. Got a couple of those on order as well. We're excited for those. Here's those CP Dome lounge cars currently in production. So there's those shells right now. As well as in N scale, the RR56 reefers. I do have one of those Santa Fe ones in HO scale that I got from a mystery box a couple Christmases ago. So that's really sweet. Really like that printing, but for you N scalers, there's those cars currently in pre-production samples. But that's all we have here from Rapido. They do tease a couple brand new announcements in May, so I'm excited to see what those are. I'm betting that one of them is going to be that Chicago L set, but let's wait and see. We'll move on now over to ScaleTrains next. Moving on over to ScaleTrains' newsletter for the week. First model they feature are both the HO and N scale water and fuel tenders. They did do a big sale on the 2-packs a little while ago, but if you missed that, they're still in stock. Both the current excursion versions, the Jim Adams and Joe Jordan, which currently serve on the excursion fleet, both HO and N scale, as well as black or maintenance away versions as well. So these look really nice. I got a very similar one with the big blow turbine I have, so I expect these to be pretty good quality as well. And a lot of people say good things about these tenders. Next up, the SD45s in the rivet counter line back in HO. Only a few of their Santa Fe versions are still in stock. There's a little bit of history on that pinstripe scheme if you're interested in that. Do think the SD45s look nice. I didn't pick up any of them myself just because of budget reasons, but eventually I'd like to pick up a couple. I think they look really nice. Probably not the Santa Fe scheme, maybe Burlington Northern or some of that Clinchfield scheme or Seaboard patches, but I do think they're really nice models. A recent delivery were the rivet counter and operator line through all 86-foot auto parts box cars. Here's the rivet counter version, a little bit of prototype history here. These are the versions that have the roof walks. Later in the summer, we'll see cars that don't have the roof walks, so a little bit of difference there. These do have rotating bearing caps as well as all the separately applied details you'd expect from rivet counter models. There's those different road names that are currently in stock in the rivet counter line. We do have a couple different schemes shown in the operator line. Main difference, you lose some of the train line hoses as well as separately applied grab irons on the ends. A little bit more details are molded in on these cars, but they're definitely cheaper and much more available. So there's those different paint schemes that are currently in stock. And here's the models coming later this summer. The next run of 86-foot high cubes without the roof walk. So there's those road names and paint schemes. We've seen these before, so I'll just move on quickly after this. They only have a few Louisville and Nashville GP40s available, so if you're looking to pick some of those up directly from ScaleTrains, we go ahead and jump on that as soon as you can. Really like my Milwaukee Road GP40 from them. Might eventually pick some up if they do a billboard scheme, so looking to see that in the future. They did put out a nice YouTube video about chasing one of the CSX Heritage units, the Louisville-Nashville unit, number 1850. A little bit of details there if you're interested in that. That's on their YouTube page if you'd like to check that out. And here is their model of that ES44. They do have a bunch of the CSX Heritage units currently in stock. There's 8 total right now in stock with a whole bunch more coming this summer and early fall. So be on the lookout for those. They come in the fancy CSX Heritage boxes as well. So a little nice touch to make them a little bit even more special. And unfortunately, this has already passed. They had a meetup with Virtual Railfan this past weekend in Ashland, Virginia. So if you were there, let me know how that went. But that's all we have from ScaleTrains this week. We'll move on now over to Athearn next. Moving on to Athearn's Dispatcher, their newsletter for the past week. Starting off a little bit serious here, they have decided to postpone all their new product announcements due to the high tariff situation right now. We were supposed to get one last Friday, April 25th, but that didn't come out. So that's the situation right now from Athearn, just the messenger here myself. I'll, of course, cover their new product announcements once they do eventually resume, but just a little unfortunate situation right now. Moving on to some models still available for pre-order, though. These are from their April announcements. First up, the Genesis ICC caboose. Lots of different chassis safety schemes. These are also offered just standard DCC compatible lighting or with the Tsunami sound card decoder installed. I don't have any of those quite yet. Might eventually grab one just to check it out, see what it's like, but not currently anything right now that specifically calls out to me. Cool schemes here. We did take a detailed look a couple weeks ago when they were announced, so if you're interested in a deeper dive, go ahead and check that out back in April. And the next model here, the Genesis Trinity 5161 covered hoppers. That model there from a previous run, I'll spend just a second on. The AGPX scheme, I did actually just pick up a 3-pack of those cars as well as a 3-pack of their Prime for Grind versions of the same car that has been patched over with different conspicuity stripes on them. Did just pick those up last week from Lombard Hobbies, so I'll bring you a review on those shortly before these pre-orders close. So I'm really excited for those to take a look at them. These are the schemes below that are in this new run that we have taken a look at before, considering some of that Potash Corp cars, because I think it's just a really cool scheme. But there's all of those for you. We did cover these as well a little bit ago. And some models here that should be shipping in May. They're Fruhoff Z-Van trailers. Let these paint schemes go by real quickly here. Some pretty good ones to choose from there. And in their Train Tuesday last week, they talked about their HO and N scale F59PHIs. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check them out on their channel there. But that's all we had from Athearn this week. We'll move on and close out with some updates from Atlas. And before we take a quick look at the model Atlas is featuring, just want to let you know they did also put this out that they're locking all their prices through May on all their in-stock items. So if you're looking to pick up some, no tariff charges on them. Just want to let you know that this came out as well. Give it just a couple seconds here if you'd like to pause and take a look at the entire message. And moving on to Atlas's featured model for this week, the 4650 3-bay center flow hoppers, which are now in stock. Got some pretty decent features on them, including the etched metal roof locks, which I always love to see. Got their AccuMate couplers, so not exactly the Cadies that we'll probably all switch them over to, but not a bad coupler to start with. Here's some of those paint schemes currently available and also in stock like we just talked about. The prices are locked until May, so go ahead and pick those up if you're interested in them, or go ahead and check out your local dealer or hobby shop to order a couple of these. But that is all the newsletters I have for you this week. I have a lot of reviews in the works. I bought a whole bunch over the weekend. Of course, the Metro Winnebagos will be my favorite review I've ever made, most likely, as well as a bunch of rolling stock. We talked about some of those Athearn Genesis cars. Got a couple more box cars, as well as my first Aurora miniatures rolling stock. So I'm really excited to take a look at those as well. If you did make it this far, consider subscribing. Really appreciate it. Like the video if you enjoyed or just want to help out the algorithm. Drop me a comment if I did miss anything. Not always perfect. Or if you just want to chat, love talking with you guys. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.